Hi there. Welcome to Kickstart Commerce podcast, where we share search marketing and domain investing strategies to help grow your business. In today's episode, we're doubling up with two guests joining us. From a recent episode on .io domains and Park.io, you'll likely remember our first guest, Steve Webb, a researcher, developer, and marketer. And as for our second guest, he is the original living legend himself, ever expanding the .io domain marketplace of Park.io, none other than Mike Carson. And so with that, Mike and Steve, welcome and thank you for making time to join us today.
Thanks. Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Doesn't he sound like a living legend? I mean, he's just... yeah, thanks.
Come on.
No big deal. I'm just changing the world over here in my little corner of .io domain, setting the world on fire. No big deal. Oh my goodness. Well, both Mike and Steve. Steve, what's up, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been,
only a few weeks.
Depending on how these are spaced, I mean, it could be.
True. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and kind of dive right on into things. Obviously, everybody, if you listened to the previous episode, then you know a bit more about Steve, then you know more than Mike. And so we're going to kind of hop in here. And so to kick things off, Mike, let's briefly share at a high level with the listeners a bit about yourself, who you are, your personal and professional background.
So I'm a computer programmer. I've been programming since I was like in middle school. I've always known that's what I wanted to do. But I didn't really fit in with like a lot of my peers were like getting jobs, moving up the corporate ladder and stuff like that. And that never happened for me. And I kind of felt like I didn't find my place. And, luckily around the time that was all happening, people could launch their own, you could launch your own thing on the web. And,
right.
And so I was doing a bunch of that, like launching a lot of different things. And eventually, one of them just got lucky and took off, and that was Park.io. So it's a bunch of failed like launches. And I actually did start another company before Park.io. I co-founded a company called wisehive.com, which is an internet company. I co-founded it with this guy who he was kind of like a mentor to me. He's really good with business, this guy in the area. And so that company's still going around. It's been over 10 years ago that I started that. And it's doing pretty well. And then, in 2014, I started Park.io. So
what made you launch Park.io?
I got into domain names because, you need them to launch things. And I got into .io because on Hacker News, I read Hacker News a lot, and a lot of the cool companies were doing like launching with .io, and so me and my friend were going to start a project, and we were thinking of names for it. And we found one domain. It was actually smile.io, and it was expired. So we were like, how can we get this? So we looked into the process and did this research, and we figured out the day that it would become available, but we didn't know the exact time. So I wrote the script that checked it like every second. And
of course you did.
it was going to email me when it became available. But so I remember I was sitting down to dinner with my wife, and I got an email. I just got the email, and it was available. So I ran to the computer, but it was already registered. Somebody else had already gotten it. But so I was really frustrated with that. But then it made me look into a lot more and research and figure out the exact time. And so then, from there, it just came from that. Park.io came from that, basically.
It just came from there, just like that. Just that easy. Everybody go figure out what CCTLD is not big. It'll go to mountains high as .io did. No, don't go do that, guys. Please don't go do that. And please don't blame us if you do. Only if you're successful. So then in terms of, because .io really wasn't popular until when?
But it got popular. Yeah, I don't know exact time, but around, 2013 or 2013, 12, there, a lot of startups started to use .io. And it started to become popular with startups, probably because they couldn't get the .com. And
right.
But then it seemed like all these really good like tech companies were building on .io. Like they helped .io because they built really good technology. Like it was like really cool, interesting, like innovative technology on .io domain. So I think .io started to get popular with startups around then, but it wasn't in domainers' minds. Like I lucked out, man, and like when I got involved with .io domains, there was only a couple other people who were into it. And I remember there was one guy, like basically you could get almost anything you wanted. Like you could get like really amazing .io domains at that time. Like you could just register them. I remember, there's one guy who got like all these really good ones. And then there's this German guy, and he and I were like competing it out. He was a computer programmer too, and he had these scripts, and me and him we would chat on Skype, but also we were competing for them. But yeah, .io domains. So they weren't that popular. You could register anything you want pretty much. But then as Park.io, when I launched Park.io, more and more interest, and I started talking about it more. And I think this is the biggest, I think when people start seeing the sales of .io, like once they started to see like numbers, like, whoa, so somebody, like they're selling for 20, then more and more domainers got into it that way. So I think that's a lot like this. I think the same thing's happening with .ai too afterwards. Like people see a lot of big sales and they're like, something's going on here. And so domain get interested.
Now, what's the biggest sale so far that can be reported in terms of .io?
Yeah, the biggest sale.
The only one that I
feel like Swipe is number one. I think
Swipe.io.
That's what, like 68,000.
I think so. Because the only other one that I remember was the one that was sold by Bar, which was like Jackpot
Yeah.
But his was different though. I think his was like BTC or Bitcoin, right? 5
Bitcoin, I believe.
I have another one that's going on right now that's bigger, but
it's you.
It's one that's been in process. It's a monthly. They're paying monthly for it.
Oh, okay. So it's an installment plan.
Yeah, it's an installment, and it'll end. I don't know when it's going to end. It might end in a couple years or something. But once it
just
ends,
have endless payments on perpetuity.
Yeah, the
deal of a lifetime. Oh man. So and then I guess is that like an annual thing or just a multi-year contract or?
Yeah, that was just a monthly deal we worked out because we just worked out a deal where it's a certain amount a month for like 4 years, and it's been going on for 3 years now.
Nice.
So I think it's like one more year. But we're using escrow.com domain holding service for that.
So you run .io for a couple of years, and then enters Steve. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, you seem to be running this just fine by yourself, enter Steve. And so it kind of begs the question like, hey, Mike, what are you doing with your time now?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was, man, it was so great to get Steve to help because I was dying, man, at that, like it was just, I had 2 young kids. Like we just had a daughter at the time, and like, I had no time, and it was tough. It was tough getting stuff done. So it was
one-man band.
It was, I mean, it's been such a huge help having Steve help out. And Steve, he's like, I mean, and now he's pretty much, I mean, he, basically runs Park.io by himself.
He's running this thing.
Yeah, and he's added .co, and we're going to add some other ones, so it's great. So nice. I've been focusing on this handshake stuff lately, which I think is really interesting.
So handshake stuff. So for those of you that don't know, so Mike got bored. He brought in Steve first, and it was like, I'm twiddling my thumbs now. I thought I needed help, which I did need help, but I'm now on board again. And so being the programmer that he is, I mean, you got back to it, huh?
Yeah, I was lucky. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have something that's really interesting and like you're excited to work on. So it was, and actually it came. I had heard about Handshake on Hacker News like a couple years ago, but I thought,
Sorry, like we talking about like physical handshaking, or what are we talking about?
No, yeah. So Handshake it's a blockchain. It's basically a replacement for the DNS root zone. But it's instead of having ICANN manage the root zone right now, like ICANN manages so all the TLDs are handled in the root zone, and ICANN manages that. Instead of that, it's done in a blockchain like Bitcoin.
Gotcha. So you got interested in this out of everything to go and get interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been into Bitcoin. I think it's a really revolutionary idea, and I always thought like domain names should be on blockchain because they're digital assets, and I just think there's a lot of things that you could do if it was on a blockchain that you can't do now, like in an automated way or like a trustless way, like even now, like using an escrow service, you have to trust escrow.com. You have to that they're secure, that their site's secure. You have to trust registrars that they're secure. You have to trust that, ICANN the registry is going to take the domain because they see something wrong with the way that you're using it, there's a lot of different things but with, when it's done on a blockchain, if you have the keys, you own the domain. Like people can't take it. And if you have the keys, there's ways where you can use you could do like an escrow. You could basically trade the domain for money without any trusted third party. Like you can just do it with, completely trustless and secure and stuff. So there's a lot of other things like that just make it make the domain name system better in a lot of different ways when it's done on a blockchain.
Gotcha. So then in terms of now, in terms of getting started, I mean, how long have you been into this gateway journey thus far?
Yeah, I got in. I saw Handshake on Hacker News like a couple of years ago. I thought that's cool, but then I forgot about it. But then when I was at NamesCon, I met Tieshan. He's the CEO of Namebase.io, which is an exchange for Handshake. And we talked for a little while, and I could tell, and it just so happens that Handshake was it was going to launch in a week, like the mainnet launch, and so it was good. It was really good timing, and I talked with him, and it sounded like a solid, seemed like it was pretty solidly made out of all the blockchain DNS systems, and it was launching in a week, so I was like, I got to look into this, and so the more I looked into it, the more I realized that it's a really solid thing and that there's a lot of cool things that could come from it.
Now, Mike, taking a step back here now, do you consider yourself a domain investor, developer? What do you consider yourself?
I like to call myself a hacker. I mean, that's like it. I think just, I'm a computer programmer. That's what I tell people. I'm a computer programmer.
Any college or?
Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Okay.
From a school in Ohio, College of Worcester in Ohio.
Okay.
I'm from Ohio originally.
The Ohio State University is what they like to say. But that's neither here nor there, nor a dinner time discussion. But moving right along, so you consider yourself really a hacker, computer programmer. I guess, do you invest in domains at all, or not really?
Yeah, I guess I am. I am a domain investor too. I mean, but I don't. Yeah, I haven't been buying regular domains for a while. I mean, every now and then I'll get some domains, but mostly I'm focused on Handshake, and so
Gotcha.
I have a bunch of domains that I've had for a while that I sell every now and then.
It's always interesting to speak with someone just of your background and experience, because to a certain extent you would think, oh yeah, Mike probably has about 2,500 or anywhere north of that in terms of domain names, and it's quite interesting to find that sometimes it's actually the opposite. That most folks like yourself, you may only have a couple hundred, if that. And so it's always interesting. It's like, but you're dealing in the space, you would think that this person would likely be in there a little bit more, but that's not, necessarily the case. And so in terms of, I guess, gateway.io, I mean, I guess this is a new experience in terms of being able just to buy domains. So it's like the whole new internet. So you have this meeting at NamesCon a week until, I guess, they launch the platform. All right, so walk us through, like, did you automatically think, oh yeah, I've got a domain called gateway.io and I'm going to go and build this out? Like, what was that process in terms of launching gateway.io?
Yeah, the cool thing about Handshake is that it opens up the TLD space. So a lot of other blockchain DNS systems, they just launched on one TLD, like Namecoin, I think was .bit, and ENS, I think is .eth or .eth, or I don't know. And then Unstoppable Domains is .crypto, I think. And
right.
So so one really cool thing about Handshake is like just that one thing, opening up the TLD space. It's like a huge. I didn't even think about this like at first. I thought, oh, cool, blockchain DNS and it's built solid. But opening up the TLD space is such a cool thing because it really, like, ICANN has a stranglehold on the TLDs right now. It's like, you got to pay $1 million if you want a TLD. You got to give us $1 million if you want a TLD. But like, it's like, come on, man. Like, why? Like, why does that have to be that way? Like, why?
Because I said so. That's why.
I know. It's so like opening up the TLD space. It's like opening up the floodgates.
Right.
It's like opening up the internet and letting everybody else, not all the big rich companies who are going to use it, only going to use a TLD to make money. Like open up the TLDs and let people use it for whatever they want to use it for. Like, and I think doing that will open up a lot of innovation and freedom and just like open up the internet. Like the internet's like being, like there's only like a few hundred TLDs. It's like, it's stuck in this little thing. And when you can open up the floodgates of the TLD space, I think a lot of good things come from that. So anyway, back to your original question. We started to get some TLDs and we were like, wow, this is, we have TLDs. What, like, maybe we should try to sell some domains on these TLDs.
Now, Mike, let me stop you there. Now, when you say TLDs, like for the listener that may not understand, like what a TLD is, because for some people they would argue and go, hey, Mike, we have more than enough TLDs. There are like 1,500 of these things out here floating around. So why in the world do we need additional ones? So like kind of help explain just kind of what a TLD is.
Yeah, TLD is like .com, .org, .io. It's or .ai. It's the initial like.
Yeah, it's like the top level domain, I guess.
Yeah, top level. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's a top level domain. So, so Handshake opens that up, so you can get like anything, like.
So like .alvin.
Yeah, .alvin. You can get that as long as it's not reserved. I mean,
nice.
They grandfathered in all the existing ICANN TLDs, so you can't get like .com on Handshake. It's already in there. Like it resolves to .com domains, and also the Alexa top 100,000 most popular website names. They reserve those for the owners, so they can claim them. So yeah, you could get Alvin .alvin if you wanted, as long as
.chipmunk or chipmunks,
as long as it's it isn't already reserved. Yeah, you can get that.
Right. So I'm looking at the site right now, gateway.io. And so you have, I guess, what is it? .txt, or makes me think text. So .txt, which would be the extension for a text file, and then .js, obviously, which most know to be the extension for JavaScript. So now is that a correct definition? Well, I know it's a correct definition in terms of extension, but is that the thinking of having both of those, listed as TLDs?
So yeah, we got some TLDs and we were like, let's sell some domains on these. And we were like, well, let's set up another way to think of it further is we could set up a registry operator for Handshake TLDs, because, there's registry operators out there now, like Affilius, VeriSign and stuff that manage the current TLDs. And it's kind of hard to break into the registry operator business right now because it's a lot of money, and people are already like, there would be huge transitions, things to go along. But with Handshake, we're like, let's get in. So we decided, we're like, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll set up a registry operator so anyone who owns a Handshake TLD can sell domains on that TLD using our registry operator system. And we'll set it up the same way that current registry operators are set up with EPP, the EPP system, which is like the standard protocol for managing domains. We'll set it up with that and run it. And so, yeah, it worked out great. We partnered with the ex-CTO of the .io registry, this guy, James Stevens, who's like DNS grandmaster. Like, he knows like DNS better than anyone. So he's managing the registry for us. So it's a really robust, like just as robust as .io was. And so .txt, we own that. So we wanted to launch that, and then namebase.io actually owns .js. So we launched both of those thinking these would be good for like trying to get developers interested. We thought developers might be interested in getting the .js or .txt domains. And the idea was maybe to get developers interested in Handshake, and so that's why we launched with those first. But actually, there's going to be another launch of a few more TLDs. I think .api, .base, .zen. These and maybe a couple more are going to be released on August 1st. And there's actually a sunrise period. Same thing as so trademark holders can get their domain for the first 30 days. There'll be a sunrise period, and actually you can get them besides gateway.io. You can get them through 101 domain and also in Circa.
Nice. So it's the same extensions in this .js, .txt that you can actually go out to 101 and grab as well.
Yeah, 101 domain, you can get them there, and also in circa.com. And we're going to add some other registrars too.
So then coming off of that, like I said, coming off of NamesCon, so how long did it actually take you to get the site set up? He's like a couple all-nighters.
No. I have to get sleep. My kids, sleep is a priority. Now,
Mike, how many kids do you have?
I have two young kids, a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Ooh, okay. I know exactly where you're at, man. My kids are 7, 6, and 4.
Oh, 3, man. You're
Come join the party. Come join the party. Come on, Mike. You can do it.
I have huge respect for any. I guess it took a few months to get everything set up, and
Awesome. So then, I mean, kind of explain. So how does this pricing model work out for Gateway.io?
When you get a TLD on Handshake, it goes to an auction. The one smart thing they did is they release the names over a 52-week period. So all the names aren't released at the beginning. What's cool about that is it's distributed over a year. So
right.
It's really hard. Like, people can't just like
can't game the system.
Yeah, and you can't squat on one person can't squat on all the names, which is what happened with Namecoin, I think, which is caused a big problem because there's no incentive for people joining later to join. It's because everything's taken.
Right.
So they did that smart where they put it over 52-week period where you can get the names, but once they're available, you can open up the auction on the blockchain, and then it goes to like a 5-day auction or something like that. I forget the exact number of days, but it goes to an auction, and you bid, and it's a victory auction where the highest bidder pays the second highest bid price, and the bids are kind of blinded, so you can. It's a little hard to blind something on a blockchain, but you can basically you can see how much somebody sends as a potential bid plus a blind. It's a little complicated, but anyway, people bid. It's a kind of like a victory auction, and when the winner pays the second highest bid, but when they pay it, it just gets burned. Like, nobody gets the money. The money is just burned. It's kind of called burned. It's like locked up. It's locked up in the blockchain, so it can't be used anymore.
Gotcha.
So you pay, but nobody gets it, which is kind of cool. And then So you can get these TLDs. Some TLDs have gone for pretty high prices. I think .js sold for a lot, and some of these single character ones like .x I think sold for 20. I think the highest is like low tens of thousands, like $20,000-$30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, but some you can get for free. You know, if there's no second bidder, you get you get the TLD for free. So then, yeah, if you sell domains on that, you know, then it's like you got a free TLD and you're just selling domains. And you can sell it through. We partnered with Namebase.io, so if you have your TLD on Namebase.io, you can just you can have a setting where you can sell it through the registry, and it'll go to like 101 domain and circa gateway.io, and then you get the money minus the Namebase.io commission that's charged on that.
So how does this actually change like the domain industry? And the obviously we talked about the internet at large, but like specifically the domain industry, what could this wind up doing?
Yeah, the domain industry. I think this is gonna. I mean, it's gonna take time. It's definitely gonna take time. There's a lot of work, but I think something. If it's not this, it's going to be something like this. I think it's inevitable that this will happen. It's just too good not to happen. But I do think it will be Handshake. And what will happen is there's just going to be a flood of TLDs out there. So that is something domainers, the domain industry is going to have to think about. Like, what's a world like where there's basically infinite TLDs? Some are, I mean, it's like it is today. Some are more valuable than others. So that I expect that will continue when there's, so many TLDs, but also, maybe .com won't be worth, I mean, I'm sure .com is going to be, it's the first, it's the first, it's the oldest. I'm sure it's still going to have value, but maybe when there's so many other options, when it's so saturated, the TLD thing is so, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know, but
right.
I think it's going to have, I mean, if Handshake takes off, it'll have huge, huge impact on the internet and domains.
Gotcha. Now, how's the site been doing so far since, because you launched? When did you launch?
Good question. Month ago or so?
It was about beginning of June.
Beginning of June. Yeah.
So beginning of June, we are midway through July at the time of this recording. So roughly about 45 days in.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Then, and so over the last 30 days, I guess, are you starting to see traffic creep up, tick up? I mean, kind of what's the lay of the land looking like?
We got a burst of registrations at first. And at first it was just gateway.io, and 101 domain and Circa now are at the point where they actually have pages up and you can register the domains through them. So, I expect, especially with these new TLDs that are going to be coming out in August, I expect that it'll just continue to
rise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on how Handshake, I think the more that Handshake becomes, the more people use Handshake, the more this thing will take off. And also, what's cool is that so every TLD owner, when they list it through this registry, through the different registrars, they also become their own marketer. Like so they can do what they want, like they can market it as much as they want. So they're all going to be marketing these their own specific TLDs, like the owner of .api or .base. Mm-hmm. They'll want it to do well, so they'll be marketing it themselves. So it'll be interesting to see how, the more TLDs that come out there, how it affects everything.
So if somebody wanted to get their own TLD, kind of walk me through that process.
The easiest way is on Namebase. You just go to namebase.io, and you can get Handshake coins. You can buy them on there, and then you use those Handshake coins to bid in auctions. And you can see a list of auctions that are open on namebase.io, or you can see which ones are going to be opening soon, and you can open them, or you can open an auction and then bid on it. So the easiest way is namebase.io. There, you can also download HSD, like a full node, and run a full node on your computer. You can do it that way. And that's actually, it's the more secure version because you own the keys, like it's on your computer.
Right.
At namebase.io is an exchange. I'm sure it's secure, but it's kind of like it's like the difference between Coinbase and like using your own Bitcoin wallet for Bitcoin. But also Handshake, they airdropped a lot of coins. So you can get free coins. You can get free Handshake coins if they airdropped a lot of coins to open source developers. So if you have a GitHub account with like 15 followers, you can claim like 4,000 Handshake coins. There's a couple other ways you can claim some Handshake coins. And also, actually, they actually airdropped Handshake coins to some registrars. Namecheap, they airdropped like 1 million coins to GoDaddy.
Wow.
And actually, ICANN itself, they airdropped like a ton of coins to ICANN. So it's interesting.
To the folks that said, pay $1 million.
Yeah.
We'll give you these coins, though. Man, oh man. And speaking of security now, like that's one of the things I guess that was at the top of my mind is how secure is something like this?
Well, it's as secure as like you keep your key, like as secure as you.
It's a tough question. That's a loaded one.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's more secure. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's a lot more secure because, if you keep your keys, in a cold storage or like, where it's not on the computer, it's not online, then it's super, super secure. And also, actually, Handshake is a decentralized certificate authority. So it's actually much more secure in terms of SSL. Like when you go to HTTPS, and like it's encrypted, when you go to an encrypted site, the way that it currently works is certificate authorities. There's like a few hundred, or I don't know exactly how many there are. There's either a few hundred or a 1,000 or something certificate authorities. But if one of them is compromised, if just one of them is compromised, they could issue insecure certificates for domains. And there could be basically what it comes down to is when you see a little lock icon, it may not be authentic. Like the traffic might not be encrypted that you're sending, like your username and password or your credit card information.
Right.
But on Handshake, it's built in. Like they have a way that certificates are built into the DNS, so it's much more secure that way.
Gotcha. It made me almost think of when you were saying the whole padlock icon. Made me think of IDNs and some of the emoji domains of people using the padlock through IDN to fish. I'm like, geez, and people are like, oh, it's secure. That's not the lock, and that thing is supposed to be green. So,
yeah, that's funny. You can actually get like emoji TLDs on Handshake too, which is interesting.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you can get like.
So I can get I can get dot smiley face.
Yeah, you can have dot smiley face.
And here goes the second land grab of emoji domains. I can see it. I can see it. I can hear Paige Howe right now. He's probably typing away, trying to go out and on the TLD. Oh my goodness. Interesting though. So really, it's anything, I guess, that can be a TLD for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's restrictions on the characters, some of the characters and stuff like that. But basically, I think it's 63 number of characters, and you can only have a dash like in between other characters. But yeah, something like that. It's like, but basically, you can have like, there's like almost infinite TLDs that can be available.
So you could go bid for TLD, win it, get it set up, I guess, with gateway.io.
Yeah, if you have it on Namebase, you can. Right now, they're it's not everybody has access to sell it through that. Like we're rolling it out. We're still rolling it out. So
Gotcha.
it's the first of every month. A few more TLDs are going to come out, but you can apply to have yours. There's a form you can fill out to get on the wait list, I think. But I think eventually the goal will be it'll just be a button you can click on namebase.io, and then your TLD will be sold on all the registrars that we have under.
Gotcha. And then I guess in terms of like it'll appear on gateway.io, somebody registers the domain, I guess they get a cut, or how does that all?
Yeah. So like if you for example, if you had .alvin and you were selling and you sold it through this, you could sell it on gateway.io. If you sold it, it would go through all the registrar partners, 101 domain and circa. And if somebody bought like me.alvin for whatever price, let's say you priced it at $25. I think the way it's currently is you get 70% of that, and Namebase charges 30% commission. So you would get, $15 or whatever, or $16 or
Per domain.
per domain. And every renewal you would get that too, or transfer you would get $16.
Nice. So it's really, so for some of the domain investors, then it really is, they kind of move up the food chain, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can move up to, yeah.
It's like if you're that serious into domain investing, then it certainly behooves you to go take a look or peruse namebase.io as well as gateway.io. So, Mike, let me ask this. So then how does gateway.io compare to, say, Unstoppable Domains?
Well, gateway.io is the registrar under that we're doing for the registry operator. But like, yeah, in terms of how does like Handshake compare to Unstoppable Domain? Well, they're just like it's a smart contract built on Ethereum, I think. So they're selling crypto and maybe .zil, I think, but it's really just a smart contract on Ethereum, and it's
really apples and oranges between what you two do.
Yeah, I mean it's similar in that they're trying to sell domains under these, and they're doing it on the blockchain. So yeah, I guess like if you have the keys, you own that name. So it's similar in that way. Like if you own the keys, you own the name. But the difference is that, well, there's a lot of differences, but in my opinion, Handshake's a lot more solid because Handshake it's a fork of Bitcoin, which is proven to be solid, like 10 years proven solid and billions of dollars, and it's just added DNS on there. So it's like it's built really strong for DNS. And on the other hand, like Unstoppable Domains is a smart contract built on a general purpose smart contract blockchain. So it's like not for DNS. So like, for example, if like when CryptoKitties, I don't know if you heard of CryptoKitties, it was like this like app it was like a kind of an app built on Ethereum, and it like bogged down Ethereum, and like, so because there's so many transactions going, and I think if something like that could happen, it could affect Unstoppable Domains.
And then I guess with Unstoppable, they're only, I guess they're kind of at the mercy of just kind of the person is actually just buying a domain name versus actually by going through Namebase, yet you're really talking about TLD versus actual domain name. Now, yeah, you're going to be selling domains, but it's not, I guess when you go to Unstoppable Domains, it'd be like me going and getting alvin.crypto versus coming to through Namebase to then, purchase .alvin and then get it listed, on gateway.io and other places.
Yeah.
Still on the blockchain, but just doing different things.
Yeah. So yeah, from a domain investment standpoint, I think you're right. Like, yeah, moving up the food chain. That's a good way to put it. It's like you can become a registry. You can own your own TLDs.
And you can own more. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, just when you said that, it made me think. I was like, shoot, I was sitting here thinking a bit linear, a bit small, just like, okay, one TLD, but you can actually own as many as humanly possible to own or purchase or outbid people.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this is, some people say with Bitcoin, like Just put 1% just in case it goes crazy. Because if it goes up 100 times, you're going to make 100%, like, so I feel like that analogy is, I mean, I'm not an investment advisor, consult your investment advisor, but like, I think domain investors, it probably would be smart for them to similar advice, like 1%. If you just put 1%, Handshake really does take off. The chances probably are low. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of people who don't want it to happen. But if it does take off, Bitcoin went from, like, it was the best performing asset of the last decade. Like, it made, billionaires out of people. So
instantly.
Yeah. So 1%, like how much, the amount you're going to invest in, domains, why not 1%? Put 1%.
Hey, you're investing in domains anyway. I mean, come on. Isn't that the whole, I mean, it's kind of the premise to a certain extent. I mean, nobody really knows that they're going to have a $1 million sell until it happens in most cases. I mean, obviously, that you own something of greater value than something else, but it's really what the market will pay, and if and whether or not you align to the right people that are willing to pay such pricing. And so it's interesting. So then, what is your overall vision or goal for Gateway.io, say 5-10 years from now?
I just like working on it. I just like working on Handshake, and like just trying to make it. There's a lot that needs to be done, a lot of work, and
I feel another job for Steve coming on.
I just want to try to help Handshake, in any way I can, make it better and better every day, I guess, and maybe try to launch some cool projects on it. And, as far as Gateway and the registry operator and that thing, I think as Handshake becomes more useful, more easy to use, and more people are using it, I think naturally the registry operator system like Gateway.io and stuff will just naturally go up with it.
Now, it doesn't strike me, though, as Gateway.io would be your last venture. You seem to be a bit of a tinkerer. You kind of like playing things that interest you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, look, I just love working on Handshake. That's all I know for right now. Check back with me in 3-5 years, and we'll have another show then, and we'll see what we'll talk about.
The cool thing is, it's like building on regular domains, and then building on Handshake. You have a lot more. There's more things you can do on Handshake. So there is a lot of cool things that, and we have some TLDs maybe that we're hoping to build like apps on and stuff. So yeah, hopefully we'll be launching some more stuff soon.
So then, Steve, from your vantage point, I mean, what do you make of all of this?
I'm back, everybody. I've just been doing laps in my house, trying to stay fit,
stay healthy, stay safe, stay fit during COVID.
Exactly, all those things. So I think what Mike just said is kind of my takeaway, right? Like the thing that's really exciting, because you mentioned, I mean, I agree, Mike has lots of ideas, has lots of passion, and the thing that's so freeing about Handshake is what he touched on, that, and it's basically like a paradigm shift, right? Because even as you mentioned, most people are in this frame of mind of, I have a TLD and then I'm going to register a domain, so I'm going to get alvin.com. But if you own the TLD, you can literally do anything, right? Like I don't have to be beholden to this one fixed point in one TLD. I can create an app that uses the entire namespace within a given TLD. So if I wanted to create an Alvin app, for instance, and just circling back, I looked it up, Alvin or .alvin becomes available at the end of October. So if you're a listener,
that'll be a birthday gift to myself then.
That's right. Everybody get Alvin.alvin if he doesn't get it himself. But if you had that TLD and you wanted to create an Alvin app, whether that's having all of your, vast content empire on, or you wanted to create whatever, right? I mean, like sky's the limit. It can all be housed in this TLD, as opposed to if I just had this one fixed site that then is very much constrained to whatever you can do on a given site, right? Like you don't have those rules anymore. Like in theory, you could have an individual location within a TLD that's dedicated to podcasts, dedicated to videos, dedicated to, it's totally up to your imagination. And as Mike mentioned, I mean, this is all like super early days. I mean, people don't seem to believe us whenever we give the NamesCon story, but like these things are happening as we speak. Like this is all in flux. And so now is absolutely the time to get on board because you can shape basically what all this looks like. It's not like the current system where we're all beholden to what ICANN tells us to do or what any of these other registry operators tell us to do. Like this is essentially going back to, late 90s when it was all brand new and everybody was trying to figure out what to even make of the World Wide Web. I mean, that's where we're at. And so to Mike's point, I mean,
Wild West 3.0.
Exactly. So like, even if you don't want to put 1% in, like, can add something to the community, right? I mean, like, develop something new, because that's ultimately how this is all going to shake out. Is someone's going to create something really cool that I obviously can't think of off the top of my head right now, and then that's where we head. Like, it takes off in whatever direction that ends up going. And so, if any of this excites you, I mean, like, this is the time to get involved and start participating, because like most of these things, it will pass you by fairly quickly if you don't plant your flag and start participating now.
And it's kind of, I mean, it kind of follows the same trajectory in terms of .com. I mean, really any legacy TLD. Not only that, I mean, we can even, take it back to the beginning of the conversation where we're talking about .io. It's the same sort of premise. It's like, get in early, get in now, ride the wave, see where it goes. So, Steve, I mean, now, do you split time between Gateway.io and Park.io, or what's your hours looking like?
I do whatever I can to help Mike change the world as far as Handshake is concerned. And so I have very limited involvement in the Handshake. I mean, I've educated myself to kind of what's going on, but aside from just being Mike's cheerleader, that's basically my involvement with Gateway and Handshake. Stand out of the way, let him do his magic.
let him tinker until his little heart is content.
That's right. And just to make it more the one thing I guess we haven't really touched on, just to make it concrete for anybody that's listening, is so if you want to buy a TLD, we already mentioned you go to Namebase. That's the easiest way. Then once you have the TLD, obviously you need to be able to resolve it, right? Because if you can't actually go to the content that you're trying to host on whatever your SLD will be. And so right now it's NextDNS, I guess, is the easiest way to resolve. And it's very simple. I mean, obviously we're on a podcast, so we can't show you the process, but if you go to NextDNS, it's very simple to become Handshake ready, basically, to where now you can actually resolve both Handshake and traditional, okay, we'll call them ICANN domains, but it's not. I guess that's the best way to describe it, is ICANN versus alternative. But the other thing, I mean, and we didn't really touch on this either, but that's the other beauty of the reserved names, right? Like, so since you can't get .com and some of the more established TLDs on Handshake, it doesn't break anything. So like if you start resolving Handshake domains through NextDNS, for instance, it just adds. Like you're not hurting yourself. You can still access your ESPN or your news sites or your banks or whatever you desperately want to see on the current internet. You can still do all those things. It's just now you have this entire new world essentially that you can to visit. And so it's all about creating new stuff. It doesn't in any way infringe on what you're doing right this moment.
Yeah, for example, I'm I have a Handshake resolver. I've had it for months, and like we're doing this podcast, like everything's like I still use the internet exactly as I did before, but I can also view all the Handshake TLDs also.
So wait. So I go to name bio. I bid, I win. I get it to resolve using NextDNS, and I'm assuming is that .com, .io?
.io.
Okay. So I get it to resolve there, and then it gets listed amongst whomever, gateway.io, and on and on and on. And then in terms of, I guess, pointing it to a server, I mean, so how does that all work?
Yeah. So it's on the blockchain. You can set some records for the TLD itself. So
Mhm.
basically, namebase.io will take care of that for you. If you're going to sell it through the registry operator, through the registrars, they'll set the name servers for you, and then
Nice.
basically that's all set up. And then from then on, it's like whenever you register a domain through 101 Domain or through Encirca, through gateway.io, it's the same process as if you registered a .io or something. You can just set the name servers, you can set TXT record, all that stuff.
Gotcha. So pretty much you can make all the DNS edits as you normally, the DNS edits that you make today, you can make those same DNS edits.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was anything else special there going on, if there had to be another magic handshake, yes, pun intended, or, it needed anything else to occur.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that there's a few things that make Handshake. We're still working out some of the usability things. Like, for example, setting up HTTPS, like a SSL certificate. That's it's not as easy as because before you have to, like with regular domains like .com, you have to go through a certificate authority. They validate your DNS. They issue the certificate through there. But with Handshake, you can't do it like that. You have to set it up a different way, which is called Dane. It's like this. It's basically setting it up through DNS. So it's not something that was invented with Handshake. It's just something that Handshake uses. It's been around for a while, but it's not really used much with many browsers. But then there's other things like email, for example. Setting that up, it's hard. Like none of the current mail providers really would support like getting like email from .alvin, so
Right.
or like routing it to your email, like me at something.alvin. Like it would be hard to get there. So until that's built, like an email provider for Handshake and stuff like that, there's some kinks that need to be worked out, but it uses DNS exactly the same as as current domain.
Man, that's good stuff. So then, I guess wrapping up here, I mean, what would be, knowing what you know, and I think we've already heard a bit of the answer, but what would your advice be to someone that's looking to enter into this whole experience of Handshake? Like, where should they start?
I guess, yeah, it depends what they want to do. If they want to help, there's a lot of areas that need help, like coding, contributing code, and like just building services on Handshake, like for example, the email provider stuff, or there's a lot of different ways. But from a domainer's perspective, yeah, I would just get to read about it, read how how domains are released over 52 weeks, how the TLDs are released over 52 weeks, see which ones you're interested in, or go on namebase.io, get some coins and buy some TLDs and get started that way, and then just go from there, I guess.
And so then now, so where do they find out, I guess, where TLDs are released? I'm assuming Namebase.
Well, there's actually a form, like it's built into the code, like you do a hash of the name, modulus 52, and it tells you the week that it's going to be released. But yeah, the easiest way is to go to namebase.io, and then they have a little section called domains, and you can just search TLDs right there. So like if I type in Alvin, I see, it's available on 10/29/20. So that's probably the best, easiest way is namebase.io.
Gotcha. Anything else to add, Steve? I mean, in terms of where people should start or think about?
Again, like it's just like anything, right? Like since this is so early, it's just a matter. I mean, it doesn't hurt you to go to attack it from both options, right? Like I think there's potential huge upside if you buy a TLD and then it takes off. And there's similarly, just like most domain investors are already familiar with, if you see TLDs that are already becoming available and something catches your eye and you think, oh wow, like I could easily see use cases for that. I mean, it's significantly easier to stake your claim now whenever it hasn't fully taken off than a year from now, 5 years from now. And so like even if you just look at JS or TXT, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people that have already purchased domains on those TLDs they obviously have no idea. Like, they don't know if it's going to take off, but I mean, it's like $10 if you go through gateway.io. So would I like, if I have a JavaScript project that I'm working on, is it worth $10 to just have the risk taken away, right? I mean, like, because you're basically just saying, I'm going to spend $10. It's just like an option, right? Like, I spend $10 with the hope that maybe this becomes like $1,000, $10,000, whatever in the future. And then if it's not, then I lost $10, whatever. I mean, like, there's lots of other ways to lose $10 that are significantly worse for you. I mean, so from my perspective, there's very little risk and there's a huge potential upside. And just from my own life experience, I wish I'd taken a lot more risks like this and not been scared by, is this actually going to turn into anything? Because who cares? I mean, if it doesn't, then you're out, with a small percentage of your investment in any given year. So, I mean, I think I personally, if I was looking at this, I would be far more upset if I didn't get involved now as opposed to getting involved now and then it not taking off, because at least I found this really new, exciting thing that very few people know about right now. And I was there from the very beginning versus like with Bitcoin, especially, right? Like when you look at what happened in 2017, whenever it just flew completely out of control, that's the kind of thing we're talking about, right? Like, do you want to be that person that looks at that and says, oh, wow, it would have been so nice if I gotten involved back in 2020 before Handshake became the next big thing, or be the person in 2025 that's just like, yeah, I got involved and now I'm living on my island that I bought.
Another thing I guess I would recommend is like Steve said, get a resolver, set it up so you can resolve and you can test it out by going to handshake.txt, and that should redirect to the Handshake white paper. But I would set up a resolver, make sure that's working. And then also one other thing I forgot to mention is the Telegram. They have a Handshake Telegram channel, and we're not the only one. We're not the only domainers. Like, if you go on the Handshake Telegram channel, there will be some recognizable names. I'm not going to name any names, but there's some people who have been in the domain industry for a long time on that channel.
He said, I ain't dropping names, but it's some names that y'all would know.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that is awesome. And so last but not least, I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners in terms of, hey, if they want to get in touch with you or on social media or email, how should they go about doing so?
I just deleted all my social media accounts, so probably the best way is email mike@park.io.
Mike's like, you know what, man, I'm going to Handshake. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Hang out here if you want to.
You can hang out on the legacy internet if you want.
Exactly. He said, I'm moving on up. Oh, man. And Steve, how about yourself?
I have unofficially done the same thing for a while, but now that Mike's done it like in your face, I'm super jealous because I really wish I had done the same thing way earlier. Unfortunately, I still have it out there. I guess now I'm basically like the fallback. So if you have to find me on Twitter, it's at Steve Webb, although it's very unlikely that you're going to get in touch with me very quickly. If you just send me an email at steve@park.io, or even just at support@park.io, it'll get to us. Like, it's very easy to find us, even without Twitter or Facebook or any of these other, what I would say are evil platforms.
He said, this legacy nonsense. That's what it is. That's what it is. Oh, man. Well, hey, it's been great. With that, we're out of time. So Mike and Steve, thank you both again for joining us today and sharing the journey thus far of gateway.io as well as Handshake.
No problem. Thanks. Hey, thanks for having us. Good talking.
Thanks for having us. Hopefully you're not sick of me. I didn't, although I wasn't nearly as prominent this time. So if you got sick of me in the first one, this is a great break. But if you're my biggest fan, then maybe you're upset. So like send a hate mail to, actually don't send hate mail. Just come to park.io. Take out your anger, or gateway.io. If you're upset that I wasn't more prominently involved, you can make it up to me by buying some domains.
And there you have it, listeners. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name strategies to help grow your business. Please subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or Podbean. Last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com to subscribe to the newsletter sharing tips and tricks about the disciplines of digital strategy. Thanks, and that's all for now.